My name is Guilherme. I'm the president for the GBC Analytics Club. We were launched on March 2020. Now we have over 150 members, and basically our purpose is to promote those kind of events. So we have networking events, speaker seminars, and events just like the one today where we have Lacey here with us. That is, how can I call it? Like a skill learning session maybe, or
Yeah, it would be like a career development workshop
yeah.
of sorts. Yeah.
Right. And I'm glad that everyone is here with us. I'm going to post some links here on the chat box. So basically the best way to follow us and see what events we are promoting and what's going on with the analytics industry. We have these two groups on LinkedIn, and everyone is more than welcome to join us there. Just posting here. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to pass it on to Lacey so she can start her presentation. She's a career advisor at George Brown, and she's going to tell us about this challenge mindset. We've done a test session before, and I found it really interesting. It really gave me many career insights for what kind of roles I might want to take in the future. So I think everyone's going to enjoy it a lot. So on to you, Lacey.
Well, thank you so much, Guilherme. I'm so excited to be here and present to the GBC Analytics Club for the first time. To give a little bit of a background on me, I have been a career advisor at George Brown for almost 4 years now. I've been at a few of the different campuses. More recently, I was based out of the St. James campus, where the business programming is, and I take a somewhat different approach to career development than some of my peers. I take a bit of a more narrative constructivist approach. I don't use too many formalized assessments because I find that the narrative approach gets to more meaningful conversations behind career development. And so this is an approach that I really enjoy. And so when I reached out to Robin, to Karen and Guilherme about providing this workshop, what I was wanting to get a sense of was, are there folks in these programs who are still feeling unsure about where they want to go in their career journey and how they want to use their skill set and their strengths to their advantage as they grow within this profession. And so I'm really glad that they invited me to come and speak with you today and maybe explore that a little further with the folks in the group. So I just wanted to quickly do a shout out to SparkPath. SparkPath is the creator of the tool I'm going to be talking about today, and we've been partnering with them for, I would say, since the late summer, early fall. And while this tool is meant to be used both in one-on-one sessions and large group sessions, I find that the conversations are just as impactful in either of those dynamics. And so I do encourage you to participate, to share your experience, share your insight or your thoughts or your ideas in the chat, just to get the conversation going and really share where you're at with the tool as we go through, and share just any questions that you have as we're going through the content. So here's what we're going to be talking about today. So the learning goals are going to be to learn about challenges or opportunities in the workforce. We're going to be learning how to explore alternative occupations and explore what challenge or opportunity interests you the most. That may be something that you've been wondering about for a while, or maybe been feeling overwhelmed with how many options there are out there and really struggling to narrow it down, figuring out what are genuine interests and what are sort of nice to have interests and how to prioritize in that way. So this is to help you sort of gain some of that insight into yourself and be able to take next steps with intention. So success criteria for today, what I'm hoping that we will be able to achieve together would be a better understanding of what is considered a challenge or opportunity in the workforce. What does that look like, and how does that apply to career planning and job search? Knowing about a few other alternative occupations that maybe you didn't know about before because either it wasn't a pathway that you've kind of looked at before, or perhaps it's a very new type of role that you haven't had the opportunity to learn about yet. And being able to look into particular challenges or opportunities that interest you as you continue down that exploration path and looking at what might be a good fit for you after graduation. So if everybody's good with that, we're going to continue. So the first thing that I kind of wanted to chat with you about is the problem with job titles. When we think about job search traditionally, we always think about, I have a job title, I'm going to look for jobs with that job title, I'm going to get a job with that job title, and maybe I like that job and maybe I don't. But it's really difficult to keep track of now because there are so many different kinds of job titles out there and they're constantly changing. Even, corporation to corporation, firm to firm, the way that they assign names to types of work is very niche or somewhat more internal. The way that they, assign identities to that work is constantly changing, especially now where we see more of a hybrid model of different types of skills being incorporated into these kinds of roles. So it's just too much to keep track of to focus only on job title alone. For some folks, when they're looking at job titles, they're focusing on whether there's a prestige or a salary dollar amount attached to it, and having that be the motivation. Perhaps there's TV characters that they saw online that give them an insight into what they think that job looks like, when in reality it often looks very different. And sometimes there's either peer or familial pressure to take a certain route that doesn't focus so much on that person's strength or area of interest, and more along these sort of surface criteria of prestige or salary. When it comes to actually pursuing careers with only that criteria in mind, sometimes we find that folks will pursue that career path and find out that they don't really enjoy what they're doing and wind up leaving early and are back on the job hunt very soon afterwards. Or they find that it's not a very good fit and they underperform and either wind up back on the job search because they're not enjoying it, or because they were fired, or whatever, laid off. There's lots of different reasons for it, but focusing on only these areas have a tendency to have a higher turnover rate. And then in addition to that, there's this piece of, from the HR side of things, money is not a long-term motivator. So if somebody takes a role simply because the salary looks attractive, if they wind up not enjoying what they're doing, they wind up back into the job search very soon afterwards, trying to find something to fill whatever that missing piece of the puzzle is for them. Job titles will change, or some of them, don't exist yet, but will by the time you graduate. We have already seen this over many, many years. We've seen job titles change, even more so in the last few years. The rate that things are changing in terms of the way that we name and title positions it's so much more rapid than it was. There's job titles now that didn't exist a year before, 2 years before, whereas we went a long period of time where job titles were the same for years and years, and we simply don't have that quite to the same extent that we used to. So we really do have to start looking at the way that we search for work differently, and the way that we plan for work differently. And as I mentioned, earlier about the hybrid skill model, there's a very different way in which job postings are being written now from the HR side of things or from the management side of things. We're not necessarily able to just copy and paste the same job postings that we had previously, because we're looking for more diverse and complex skill sets to be able to complete the tasks that we need that employee to do. And so you're seeing a lot more tailored, individualized job postings come into play, where they're looking for skill set in, for example, analytics, but also in other areas to complement that. So with all of these things in mind, simply searching for careers based on titles is is really making the job search much harder than it needs to be. And it's not really getting to the opportunities out there that align with what somebody actually wants to do, what they want to focus on, the problems, the challenges, and the opportunities that will keep them motivated and wanting to show up to work day to day. Has anybody experienced that before, where they took a job because it seemed like a good idea on paper, maybe the money was right, and then they got into the position where like, this isn't what I wanted or what I was thinking about? Are you seeing anything come up in the chat? Sure.
Not in a chat, but yeah, I can say especially with companies with big names, you focus rather on the big name and what it can show you on your resume rather than what you're going to be doing at that company. And then you might not like what you're doing at the company, but you stay there just because it has a huge name to it or something like that.
Absolutely. And that's certainly something that we see a lot in folks who are wanting to get their foot in the door, where they choose a big name because it's recognizable. Maybe they decide to work at a big 5 bank or big 4 accounting firm, when really they don't want to be working in those industries. They just want to go somewhere that's going to have a support system in place, a good training program, and opportunity for advancement. But there's so many ways to access that without having to go the traditional route of just a big recognizable name, and carving out a career path on your own that actually does focus not just on your skills and your passions, but the challenges that you want to work on, and be able to take that with you as you develop your career. So we want to start looking at career planning and job search in a very different way than we have traditionally, by focusing, as you can see on the screen, what the problems, challenges, and opportunities are right now, and then what will you need to help you address those challenges. So what are we talking about? So when we're saying, problems, challenges, and opportunities, we're talking about what's going on in the world right now that needs help, that needs support, that needs solution. Cleaning our oceans, right? When you think about that, you traditionally think about somebody in a lab coat doing water experiments, or doing research, where there's so many people involved in that process. There's, people across all the different business operation areas that are contributing to that work. And analytics is obviously no exception. There's a lot of decision making that needs to be done with intention, right? And with facts to back up the decisions that are being made. Increase intergenerational learning and celebrating different cultures. There is research to support why these things are important, and potential solutions. There's many of them to choose from, but being able to decide what's going to make sense based on fact, based on data, is what's going to help those projects and those problems progress in a way that is fully formed in terms of ideation, and looking at these things not just in terms of that's a good idea and I like it, but how can I contribute to that with the skills that I know, with what I know how to do, and how I can help people through this problem and create change. So some other things could be, improving your local park. Maybe that's not a big passion for you, but perhaps working with the city to improve natural spaces, because the data tells you that that has a very strong connection to mental health and wellness within your communities. If that's something that's important to you, there's a way for you to carve a career path out for yourself in that line of work, if that's something that is pulling at you as meaningful, right? I'm not going to go through all of these, but you can see how there's an opportunity in all of these major problems that are coming up within our conversations right now, right? Looking at the way that COVID has impacted the way that we do things, the way that we engage with each other, the way that we shop, the way that we seek out public services, the way that we do pretty much anything right now has had to change. We've had to find new solutions for it, and we've had to be able to back up the solutions that we're choosing based on fact, based on information, based on the data collected. So when you're thinking about these challenges, don't necessarily restrict yourself to what in your mind's eye you think is the person addressing that type of challenge, because there's going to be, folks, as I said, at every level of business supporting these challenges in their own way. And that's something that you would be able to bring to the table as well. So let's try a little activity here based on what is on the screen right now. Which of these two challenges would you want to work on and why? Let us know in the chat, which one would you prefer to work on? It doesn't have to be your top passion, but just for an example, which of these would you be more interested in working on and why?
So Samuel David says healthy living.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I would agree with him as well, even though event new biotechnology sounds more, like harder or more complicated, but yeah, I would say healthy living. And Professor Robin said event, of course.
Well, yes, of course.
And Aleph says healthy living as well.
Amazing. So you can even see just there, even though, many of you are here with analytics in mind, maybe you're taking the same program, the ways in which you're looking about what you would possibly do with that already starts to divert, separate, right? So here we're looking at, invent new biotechnology. That's an amazing, potential career path. There's so many opportunities there, especially with what's going on right now.
Sorry to interrupt. And Faith also said that invent new biotechnology because she's interested in technology, and she's actually applying for a role in biotech company right now. So very exciting, I would say.
Awesome. Yeah, then this would be a card for you. But also consider that there may also be opportunities where these two work together. Did anybody think about that when they were trying to compare the two? Thinking, how would I be able to possibly combine these two things together and address both at the same time? Did that come across anybody's radar? If not, that's fine. But again, this is where we're starting to look at addressing problems and challenges in a way that makes sense for you, right? So let's try maybe just one more. So between these two, which one would sort of draw your attention more, or do you feel much more drawn to, and why?
Yeah, I would say personally, it's really hard to decide between those two. Professor Robin said the future of transportation. Samuel David also said the future of transportation for green energy, he added.
Fantastic. So again, as you can see...
Sorry, Faith said the design of the future of transportation because she means travels during this time and also it improves the mental health. So she's combining both of them.
Perfect. See, now folks are starting to think like with the challenge mindset. So as you can see, these two options very different from the previous two that we talked about. Maybe you're thinking of ways of combining one of these with one of the previous ones, or maybe another challenge we haven't talked about yet. There's many that we're going to discuss. But you can see where folks are already starting to think about with that challenge, why it's important to you, and perhaps maybe starting to think about in what way you would be able to contribute to the solutions of that issue right now with what you know. And that's what we're trying to get at the root of here is how are you able to take your skill set, your knowledge, your education, and apply it to real world problems that really do need your help. At the end of the day, whether you are starting your career journey from very beginnings or whether you are going through your third or fourth career change, the world still needs you. When we talk about people that we need to solve problems, we are still talking about you. We're still talking about me. We're talking about the people in this call, the people in this college, the people in our communities. We need those folks to use their skill set to address the world problems that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So Sorry, I don't know why he thinks that's less distracting. You don't need to run. Sorry about that. So yeah, it's important for us to realize that when we talk about who the world needs to address these problems, we're talking about ourselves. And when we take ownership of that, it allows us to really focus on these things with more intent, and looking at challenges in a very different light than we used to. So career advice for the new economy, don't ask kids or early professionals or mid-career professionals or career transitioning professionals, what they want to do when they grow up or when they make that new transition. What problems do they want to solve, and what do they need to learn to be able to do that? This is the key mindset we need to take moving forward, because as we talked about earlier, everything's changing so rapidly that we can't stay in the same stagnant approach to job search that we used to. We have to look at what are the problems that are happening right now. What do I need to learn to be able to address that? And what do I already know that can get me started, right? Get me started on that pathway. So at the end of the day, this is what we're talking about: becoming a challenge researcher as opposed to a job title researcher. Looking at what are the challenges happening right now, what companies are working on that, what are the types of roles involved, and what do you need to know to be able to do that kind of work. You're already started on that journey, and you've already started identifying your own strengths and interests that will contribute to that. But looking at it as a challenge research approach rather than a job search or career title search is going to allow you to think a little bit more outside the box, and access new career paths and new approaches that you wouldn't necessarily find otherwise with the traditional route of job search. So how do we do this? We do have a tool to kind of get you started and thinking about what that's going to look like for you. For many of you, you're probably going to have this one in common, which is the collect and use big data. Maybe it doesn't wind up in your top 3. I anticipate possibly it's going to be in your top 3 for most folks, but what we're going to do is have you sort through the digital challenge cards to figure out what are the challenges that are most important to you right now. So what we're going to do is a little activity where I'm going to ask you to sign up for your SparkPath account, sign in, and you're going to actually go through the sort and create a individualized challenge profile for yourself. This is going to help with so many things. It's going to help with your career development. It's going to help with your job search. It's going to help with your networking, skill development, as well as just the way that you interact with professionals in your field, and the way that you reach out to people and ask for mentorship and support is really going to change after we look at what's most important to you. So what I'm going to recommend is for the next, what would you say, Guilherme, 15 minutes? I don't want to spend too much time on the sort piece, but I'm going to ask folks to create their SparkPath account if they haven't already, and to use the unique code for GB Careers that allows us to retrieve your profile later if you want to work with us on a continued career development strategy that incorporates a challenge mindset, but at least to have a copy of it for yourself. So first step, go to app.mysparkpath.com and create an account with GB Careers. So folks could do that now. That's where we're going to get started.
I think it's fairly quick to create the account. When we tried that day, it took me like, I don't know, 2 minutes or less to do it.
Yeah, you were pretty quick with it. It's very intuitive. The tool itself is very easy to navigate, and so it shouldn't take too long for folks to get set up.
I'm gonna open up here as well, just to, I have yet to do it again, because that day we've done it. I was just trying to do it very fast so like we could see like how the results look.
Yeah,
I still
when
have
we
to
did
take it
the
in.
run through, I think you felt a little bit more time pressured. I was like,
Yes,
time,
definitely.
and you were like, no, I gotta do it now. So
Yeah, Professor Robin just added that the code is case sensitive. Oh, is that a question, Professor?
is that a question or clarification?
Oh no, it's just a statement. Yeah,
Okay.
it's yeah.
Yeah, I should have clarified that, sorry. Definitely want to make sure that you put that in correctly. But it will allow you to go into the main sort. So as soon as folks are ready.
Was everyone able to create the account? Faith said yes.
Okay, fantastic.
I
We'll get a couple more yeses and then I'll move on to the next step.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we're going to move on. If you are struggling, perhaps, Guilherme, you can maybe just message them privately in the
Sure.
chat.
Yeah, we got 2 more yeses here, so I think
Okay.
that almost
Fantastic.
everyone got it.
Awesome. So what you're going to do is you're going to start sorting out some of these challenges that are going to come up for you in this tool. While they are somewhat color coded for things like health, economy, society, technology, etc., don't feel necessarily boxed into focusing on the color combinations. Focus more on what the actual challenge is, what it's focused on. Okay. So this is probably where everyone is now. As you can see, very simple. You can't mess this up. You can't find yourself in the wrong place, but you're going to click sort the cards. It's going to give you a little intro as to what the expectations are. And what it's going to do is it's going to present you with a challenge card. This one is a little bit more robust. The pack that I have is the regular pack that they had before, and then they had a separate pack based on trades. This particular online sort has all of them together. So if you have an interest in bringing your skill set to the construction industry, to the trades industry, this is also going to incorporate that. But what you're going to do is simply based on that challenge, indicate whether you are not interested, or very interested. That's it. Don't overthink it too much. Go with your gut instinct because you will be able to revisit this later. If you decide in the future you would like to try this sort again, you absolutely can. Make sure that you save the individualized profile that you generate the first time because it will only save your most recent copy. But you can redo this sort as many times as you like if you feel you need to come back to it. But you're going to sort, and then based on what the challenge card says, if you feel you need more information on it, you can click the little information icon, and it's going to sort of flip the card around and show you more information about it. It's going to do a bit of an intro about that challenge. There may, on some cards, be examples of sample careers. Again, that list of job titles is not an exhaustive list of absolutely everything you can do to work on that challenge. So if you click on something that's more community service focused, and it focuses a lot on things like social worker, don't be dissuaded by that because there's lots of opportunity within that industry outside of that particular field. So keep it focused on the challenge itself. But that's where you can learn a little bit more about each of the challenges if you feel like you're a little bit stuck. Then at the end, it's going to give you a list of your top 3 challenges, and you can select, or a list of all your top challenges, and you can select up to 3. Once you do that, you'll click confirm and it will create an individualized challenge profile for you. So I'm going to stop there because what happens next is a little bit more of the intentional exploration. So what we're going to do for the next, I'm going to say 7 to 10 minutes, is I'm actually going to allow you to go through the sorting process yourself, go through all of the cards, select the ones that you are not interested, or very interested in, and see if we can get you to getting your individualized challenge profile created so that we can talk about the next steps after that. So if we can come back at 5:45, I think that should be enough time for everyone to go through the sort. If anyone has any questions, please let us know in the chat and I can guide you through it. But let's get through the challenge card and then we'll debrief after everyone has finished.
Sounds good. And just as everyone finishes, just gives a heads up to us on the chat, just so you know if we can restart.
Yeah, even just a thumbs up in the chat to let us know that you've completed, or something along those lines would be fantastic.
I think I'm going to redo it again as well. Just
you're going to redo it? Fantastic.
Yeah.
I think I've redone it now about 3 times. Only one of the times was my results a little bit different, but I pretty much go back to the same ones consistently, which lets me know I'm on the right track.
Right. I imagine that if you do it, like, let's say in a long time span, probably the results will be different, I would think.
Well, the thing is, again, is we want to make sure that folks aren't overthinking it, which is again why I say, we're going to give this short amount of time for people to go with their gut and not overanalyze it too much. But sometimes folks have a tendency to get stuck.
Right. Yeah. But if you do it, like, let's say today, and you do it in 3 months from now, or in 6 months from now, you're probably going to get different results.
It could be a little bit different. You may find that there are common themes, right? Like you may have 2 of the cards that stay the same while the third one sometimes changes. And even if that third one changes, does it stay within sort of a similar type of group, for example?
Right.
So there's certainly things that you can, trends that you can notice from that kind of activity. To find out, are you on that right track, or at least thinking about things in a similar way. I think the first time I did it, I really struggled to get it down to 3. I think I had a top 4, and I was doing the intentional exploration after that with a 4, even though it only gave me the profile for 3. I have the benefit of having the cards to refer to, so that was easy. But in terms of doing the sort and resorting it, even if you do wind up with somewhat different results, it does still give you insight into, are there themes, are there consistent approaches or industries that you're thinking about.
Right, different sectors, right?
Exactly.
Because you won't change a lot. Probably you change within the sector or within the industry, but you won't change a lot in terms of industry, of niche, or of sector, right? So we got a thumbs up from Samuel David. And also we have a comment here from Faith. She says it reminds her of Myers and Briggs, kind of. Do you know what she means?
A little bit, yeah. So Myers-Briggs is a form of assessment that there's many different assessments to choose from, but they all kind of focus around that interests, skills framework, and looking at individualized. What's the word I'm looking for? Individualized profile building based on a quiz somewhat similar to this. So in terms of breaking things down into categories, or at least filtering out options to find something that's a little more closely related to what you're interested in and what would bring meaning to you. It's a little bit similar, but with Myers-Briggs, it still really tends to focus a lot more on career titles, on job titles, than this approach does. This sort of actively works away from that, so that we are considering what job titles might look like right now that wouldn't necessarily be in an assessment, with data that's maybe a little bit more out of date. So it really has a tendency to flip the traditional model of career development assessment, because we're looking at the challenges first rather than as an afterthought.
Right. Yeah. Professor Robert even added here that it is similar, but it doesn't match the 60 modes of Myers and Briggs. I'm not sure here, because I'm just saying what he commented.
I don't actually do Myers-Briggs. I've never been taught how to facilitate it, because I don't, like I said, I don't really enjoy that particular mode of assessment. I find that narrative assessment is more my style. But in terms of what Robin said, absolutely. And Robin, if you want to chime in with your side of that conversation.
Sure. I think at the end of the day, Faith, any of these things are um, contextual to the time and place and where your head is and where your heart is at the time you're completing it. So MBTI is all about personalities. That's where it started. And people have extended them to match careers. Um, I think it can potentially be overextended, uh, but it is an indicator, much like the app that Lacey is showing us right now is also an indicator. So I always put a caveat with these things to say that they allow you to have some form of a guidance, but at the end of the day, there are many other factors that can get you to various types of meaningful work and experiences. So don't be pigeonholed. Don't feel like you're being pigeonholed into one type of activity. So, but it does give you an idea of where your head is, especially when you're, as what Lacey said, don't overthink it. Just whatever the natural piece is for today at this time. And so what Guilherme has actually suggested is try it a couple of weeks from now, try it a couple of months from now. And if you're still seeing that, maybe that's something that is an indicator that there's now a trend. But at the end of the day, we do have free will. So, that's how we make those choices. So there you go. That's it. That's my 2 cents.
Absolutely. Amazing 2 cents. As always, like Robin said, MBTI, strong interest inventory, big five personality assessment. There's all kinds of assessments that kind of look at personality traits, skills, and interest areas to help people narrow it down. But it isn't necessarily to pigeonhole you, just like Robin said. It's not meant to say, okay, this is who I am, and this is the only list I'm going to select from, and this is who I am all the time, despite how I felt 2 weeks ago or 2 weeks from now. And so that's why, again, as I said, I really like this approach because it doesn't really force you into a too niche of a box. It still allows you to look at, a variety of potential pathways and sort of different realities to explore beyond the traditional job titles that we know and have seen in the past. So these tools, as Robin said, they are helpful with guiding you and helping you to narrow down the noise and filter out the noise to get to what's most important to you. But that may change and that may evolve. There may be future, problems that come up that are more important to you than the ones that you were, previously thinking about. That's always going to change, which is why, becoming that challenge researcher that we talked about is going to become so important in the future of job search. Because those names are going to change and adapt and evolve over time, but the need for people to address problems will always stay consistent. So how are we doing for time? I think we're doing, I think
Got one more minute.
1 more minute.
Has everyone finished already or still taking some time?
So I wonder if I can bring up the 3 that always tend to come up for me.
Do you guys need 2 more minutes? 1 more minute? Or
I think we've pretty much got everyone giving a thumbs up, or confirming that they have finished, right? I think in the interest of time, we'll keep moving, but if folks need to come back to this and finish it at a later time, or if they want to come back and do it again at their own pace, you are absolutely welcome to do that. I just wanted to get folks familiar with the experience of it, and at least getting to the challenge profile if they were able to, so that we could talk about next steps after that.
We will also have we also have the recording from the event.
Exactly.
So I'm going to send to everyone who attended, so you guys can, if something got left out, you guys can rewatch it again.
Absolutely. Such a good point. Thank you so much. So yeah, if folks need to come back and watch it and pause it while they're working through the different steps, that's absolutely something you can do. So at the end, you're going to wind up with something like this that gives you the information about the challenge cards that you indicated were your top priorities. And again, you can keep this to use when you're guiding your next steps, right? So can some folks maybe let me know in the chat, how did that sort go for you? Was there anything new that you didn't expect, or was it fairly consistent with what you thought it would be? And maybe while folks are typing, I'll just kind of let you know what I mentioned the first time I did it. I had top 4, so I have prepare future leaders, fairly consistent with what I do now, help people reach their full potential, communicate ideas and emotions. And then my 4th one that I just couldn't get rid of the first time was reverse engineering the brain. I've had many concussions, and I know what the impact of that is like. And so for me, it was like a very important thing to have added to my list. So I'm really curious about what other folks' experience was with the sort, and what they might want to share. Guillermo, I think you said when you did it the first time, you're like, that feels pretty on point for me.
I did. I'm trying to get the PDF here from last time I've done it. I remember it was really like it was something related with mental health, like improve mental health, and something with just overall like health. Like what was the, I don't remember the option now, but it was like physical health as well.
Yeah, I remember there was a very big health theme in yours. And then we talked about, potential pathways within possibly the UHN community or within the physical therapy community. Because I think one of yours was also related to sports, or at least that was something you were interested in.
Right.
I'm trying to remember this from our meeting.
Yeah,
so forgive me if I don't remember the exact details, but I remember we were starting to look at ways of combining all 3 together and what that could potentially look like for you. And I noticed that as we were talking about it more, like you were getting much more energized about the conversation as we dug deeper.
It makes sense because, of course, I'm taking an analytics program right now, but I think that analytics was the 3rd, maybe the top 3rd. I don't quite remember the second one, but the first one was obviously related with sports and just health in general. So, and of course, you mentioned that a good way to merge those 2 things would be like using analytical skills in terms of sports or physical therapy. So it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense to me. It just proves that this tool actually works. It's really good for you to gather some insights about your career.
And I think, so to your point where you mentioned, the collect and use big data was one of your 3. And when we talked about setting this up, we kind of anticipated that would probably be a common theme amongst this group. But what was important to figure out is, what do those other 2 look like? Or if you had to choose 4 like I do, and you're thinking about that 4th one outside of your profile list, what do those other 2 or 3 look like, and how could you possibly combine those together in a career pathway forward? Based on what each of you are looking at right now, you probably have very different results, or at least, different possibilities, some may be somewhat consistent or similar, but there is probably a little bit more diversity amongst you in terms of what is important to you, and things that you may want to actually proactively pursue in terms of solving that problem. So this is where we start looking at, I'm in this program with, you know, a number of different folks, but here's what I think this career path looks like for me and how I can use this to, you know, solve challenges through entrepreneurship or protect biodiversity or re-engineer the brain, right? Or promote health and wellness. For everyone, they're probably starting to think about different things right now. So I'd love if folks would be willing to share in the chat, what are some of the things that are coming up for you, looking at your results that are maybe helping you to think about this career path in a slightly different way than you did before?
Well, while still people might be typing, it's true what you said, that I think that I'm sure that collect data and the part of mental health is always going to be there on my top, on the top three. But it's I think that depending on the time of the year or what might be going on, you know, in the news or stuff like that, it might change my third uh, top three. For example, the biodiversity one is something that is always on the news, and it's really important for us to pay attention to that. So depending on my mood or how the news are going on in a certain period of time, that might be my third option. For example, we had a comment from Faith here. So she got computers and technology, help people who need you, and help others solve problems.
Amazing. I love that combination. So if we're thinking about how those things can come together, I mean, there's lots of opportunity there for combining computers and tech with problem solving. That is even part of what you're learning right now. And then, sorry, what was the third one?
Help others solve problems.
Help others solve problems. So again, all of that is very thematic with what we're looking at. I mean, even though, you know, collect and use big data was not one of the three in your list, Faith, you can see how the three other ones still work together within that theme. But I mean, now you can think about, you know, are there particular types of challenges where you can combine the three of those together in a way that makes sense and is meaningful for you?
We also had a response from Samuel David. He got computer and technology as well, advanced virtual reality, and distribute the wealth.
Cool. I like the idea of combining, you know, the VR piece with was it redistributing wealth or addressing poverty?
He said distribute the wealth.
Distribute new wealth. Okay. So I mean, VR is all about experiences and making meaning for people. Just take it with you, please. So, you know, there's ways of combining those two things together to make meaningful experiences for, you know, investors or for customers or for people wanting to figure out what are new ways that we can distribute wealth in a way that's a little bit more equitable, that is more impactful to our communities. VR is such a great opportunity to tell a story. And storytelling is really crucial to addressing, you know, social injustices or things like, you know, poverty and equity. So I think there's opportunity there to explore that further and see who's actually doing that work now that you can maybe connect with.
And maybe work in an NGO that uses technology to, you know, promote equality or something like that, right?
Definitely a pathway to explore, right?
Yeah, I got a comment from Faith as well. She said that she's interested in a career in HR at a tech company. So she's actually interested in big data as well, which she thinks that ties with tech and digital transformation in HR. and HR people, analytics, and total rewards, and etc.
Yeah, so I mean, HR analytics is a big sort of conversation in the HR community right now, because I would say with how rapidly things are changing in business, it's becoming increasingly more difficult for HR professionals to keep up with current relevant information, and are increasingly dependent on technology to keep to stay up to date with what the reality is of the landscape within that profession or within that sector, or within just talent leadership as a whole, to be able to stay up to date and to stay competitive. There's a lot of opportunity there to combine those and move forward with really cool, new, and exciting approaches to HR, I think.
Lacey, sorry, I just want to add one comment that at 6 the session will have a hard stop. So just if you want to wrap up.
Yeah. So after this, take some time to reflect. Why did you choose those challenges? Why was it important for you to choose those ones and not other ones? Are you already seeing some opportunity in your brain to explore those further and see how you would fit within the solution to that problem? Why are your cards a challenge in today's society? The first paragraph in your cards will help with that, but even reflect on your own, how you're seeing that in your day-to-day. Who do you want to help where your challenges are concerned? Maybe that's the community at large. Maybe that's patients in healthcare. Maybe it's construction management teams and architectural professionals with building the cities of tomorrow. There's going to be a lot of option there for you to kind of reflect what that means for you. But who is it that you're wanting to help? That's going to help you with the networking piece, and even with pitching yourself to potential employers. How are these three challenges related? We've already kind of started exploring that, but take it even further through your research. In your profiles that were built for you, there's going to be intentional next steps that you can take. You'll see those intentional next steps after the profile summary. So use that to guide you in the further steps that you take, exploring firms, positions, professionals out there. And then start connecting with them. So, you can use the personalized challenge profile to actually guide you in introducing yourself to professionals out in industry and showcasing why you want to work on that challenge and what you're hoping to learn from them as people who are already doing that work. If you need some help with that, feel free to use this as a starting point for when you are connecting with people, whether it be people who are working in an organization addressing that challenge, or are actually in a role that you would like to see yourself in one day. Use this as an opportunity to start connecting with people doing that work and finding out, how do I find my own foothold within this problem, and start using what I know how to do to resolve it. So I hope that gave folks some interesting things to think about, some insight into themselves and what approaches are going to be helpful for them as they navigate this analytics community and finding their own niche space within it. If you wanted to talk more about your challenge profile and how you can utilize it in your job search, your career development, your networking, and also all of those things, feel free to reach out to myself or another career advisor, and we can talk a little bit more about your particular results and interests and ideas, and see where those pathways can lead you. So I'm going to end it there for now. As I said, feel free to reach out if you want more support with that. Make sure that you're connecting with the My Spark Path community, with the Careers GBC community, so that you can stay up to date on what's happening with both of those. But thank you so much for your time today. I think we are right at 6 o'clock, so I don't think we have any questions, but folks can absolutely reach out to me if they need more support.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lacey.